What's up, guys? So today I got inspired for the first time in a while to share something, and it was a quote that I read this morning that says, "When an inner situation is not made conscious, it appears outside of you as fate." And that really spoke to me because I think it's very true. A lot of times we don't realize that not making a decision is also making a decision. And when we have some sort of inner turmoil, it's going to come to the surface eventually. And when it does, we're like, oh, where'd this storm of shit come from? And we make ourselves the victim in this shitstorm. And we don't realize that we were kind of the engineer of the shitstorm. We were the one who put the pot on the stove, realized it was, boiling, and walked into the other room. And then we come into the kitchen, there's water everywhere, and we go, oh, fuck, what happened? This is not fate. This was planned. We just took the passive route in planning it. But by no means was it an act of God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, that the pot spilled onto the stove. I set a small fire in my kitchen the other day. This was my experience. So this quote, it spoke to me because a lot of times when we see things, massive things happening in our life, we like to give over our control of them and say, oh, this is the universe, like this is the story of my life that I'm not writing. This is like what's happening to me. And it's bullshit. It's honestly very much bullshit. And it's sad because the most important details in your life, the times when you really need to be the writer of your own story, are the times when people tend to feel like they're not the writer of their own story and their story is something that happens to them. And it reminded me of a quote from my favorite book, The Alchemist, which says, at a certain point in our lives, we lose control of what's happening to us and our lives become controlled by fate. That's the world's greatest lie. And it's basically just echoing everything I'm saying to you now, which, these aren't necessarily my ideas from James's mind. These are the things that the way I've come to see life from the inspirations and the things that I've read and the things that I've looked at. But what I would ask you to do is try to look at your life like a movie and try to think what roles in that movie, like not just a movie that you're watching, a movie that's being made, a movie that will be shown. You're developing the movie of your life and you have a big hand in it, but it's not a one-person show. And I think it's very important to know what jobs you have and what jobs you're never going to have. So I would say that you are the main character. You have to be the main character of your own life movie because everyone else is the main character of their own life movie. And if you make somebody else the main character in your movie, when people go to see this movie about you, they're going to be like, this is a shitty movie. It's about somebody else. That's not what I signed up for. And, it's important to keep in mind that you are the main character of your own story and you get to write all the lines of you, but you don't get to write the lines of everybody else. You don't have any control over the supporting cast. You just have control over you. You can't change the way the supporting cast is going to interact with each other. You can do your best to be your best and hope that influences the way they interact with you, but at the end of the day, it's going to be on them. But since this is your movie, you get to perform all your own stunts, which can be a lot of fun. And also, you get to be the director and the producer of the movie of your life. By director, I mean you get to choose the significance, you get to pick the camera angles, you get to decide what things get focused on, what things are most shown, and what things aren't. And you get to choose what's the most important parts of the movie. You get to choose what will get a lot of attention and what will just be something in the background that maybe people see, maybe people don't. And this kind of goes hand in hand with being the producer. You get to decide what gets shown. Not so much through the angles of what we ourselves reflect on and give our attention to, but what we show to others, what we, how we make it seem. That's on us. So we get to control ourselves, our actions, our stunts, our risks, our conversation, our way of thinking, our way of showing value, our things that we put value on, and the way that we convey that complete package to the world. What we do not get to choose, two main things. Anything to do with the rest of the cast. They are it's as if they're in your movie, but at the same time they're filming theirs in the same set, because there's only one set. We're all here together. So you really can't influence how they're going to star in their own movie, Because while they're a supporting cast in yours, they're the main character in theirs, and that's going to be more important to them than being a supporting castmate in your film. The other thing we don't get to choose, and this is a big one, and when you stop giving a shit about this one, it's glorious, is how the audience will ultimately perceive your film. You can put all your efforts you want into producing well, directing well, being a compelling character, but at the end of the day, it's the beliefs, the mindset, the mood, the life experience that brings them to that point that will affect the audience's interpretation of your film. So while you can put your best foot forward all you like, at the end of the day, you don't have control over this. And that's pretty liberating because it frees you from unnecessarily harsh self-criticism when you see the audience not perceiving your film the way that you intended it. All you can really do is make your film the best you want it to be. And I think we waste a lot of time in our life by trying to control that, which we can't. Trying to make other people on our set and our film be the actors and actresses that we would like them to be, and to behave under our, set rules for the filming, and this is just, it's not on. It's not going to happen. You can control how you interact with your environment, your settings, but you can't control how other people are shaping their life and their movie. And even if you can have an influence, it's always, if you change somebody else, like it's 90% them and 10% you, like they'll see the ways you're different from them and they will seek out your counsel if they're trying to grow in that direction. But if you bring it to someone, like there's so many quotes that impart this on people. You can bring a horse to water, you can't make it drink. How many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? Just one, but the light bulb has to want to change. You really can't influence other people who don't want to be influenced. You can only teach things to people who really have a passion to learn. And everyone can teach everyone, but it's on the people themselves to decide if what you're teaching is something they want to learn or something they even value and think is good. Because we all kind of think that the way we're making our movie is kick-ass, otherwise I hope we wouldn't be doing it. We're trying to make our movie the best we can, but if somebody else already thought the way we were doing it was great, they'd already either be doing it that way or trying to. So it's unlikely that if someone seems content in their ways of doing things differently than you, that they think your way is better. They're probably pretty happy with the way they're doing it. Otherwise, they'd be saying, hey, I noticed you did it like this. Can you show me? And if someone's not asking you to show them the way you're doing things, probably because they just find the way they are. And so the other thing that we do, we waste our energies where they're not needed. And then we negate our ability where it is needed most. We look at the massive situations in our life, the few things we really can control, how we handle massive change, how we handle the large kind of occurrences in our life. We look at those like the victim. And the situations that we're in, we look at us like we're the victim in them. Your boss sucks, your partner is unreasonable, your relationship isn't good, your job isn't good, you don't like where you live, you don't like this, you don't like that. Those are the things you can motherfucking change. You are the star of the movie. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. He can travel, he can change, if you have a bad relationship with someone in your family, you can go to them and try to make it better. And one of two things will happen. They will respond in kind and you will have a great relationship, or they won't. And you'll say, okay, well, I tried, and you move. But you have the power. You're not the victim in the situation. My relationship with so-and-so is not so good. I can't do anything about it. False. You can make it better or realize it will not get better and go from it, But you're not a victim of it. You're not stuck. You're never stuck. If you're in a career you don't like, either figure out a way to like it or quit. But don't sit there and go, I'm fucked. Because you're not. You're only fucked because you're letting yourself be fucked. And this is, if you don't like where you live, you can move. If you don't like, and people say, I don't have the money, I don't have this, I don't have that. People before you have figured out a way. And if you set the intention to figure out a way, you will. And it doesn't mean it'll be easy, but you're not a victim. And the victim mentality is the most defeating mentality there is. When you think that you don't have control, you become right. Because you don't try and you don't see that you do. It kind of brings it back to one of the most famous quotes from the Bible. And not that I'm very religious at all, I'll still reference it here because it has a lot of meaning. They say, God, I say the universe, and I repeat these quotes to myself, but give me the serenity to accept that which I cannot change, the courage to change what I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think that goes absolutely hand in hand with not being a victim and understanding that the massive things in our life, we may be able to do something about, and we need to have the courage. And some of the other things in our life that we might really want to change, we just absolutely can't, and we have to be willing to accept that. So we need inner peace and we need courage. And I think it's really important to recognize those things. And we're often very apt to play the victim because it's usually, in my experience, the high stakes situations where we do have control. It's the things that really matter, like your job, your relationships, your career, your path in life. Those are in your hands. It's the things that we kind of know don't matter that much, like the little things, how other people talk to us, like, how they act in our environment. Like, those are the things we can't change. But ultimately, those aren't the things that shape your life. Those aren't the things you're going to lie on your deathbed going, we did it well. We did it well. It's the big things that are going to matter. And it's the big things you can control. So don't be a victim in your own life. Have the courage. And don't ever say to yourself, this is my fate. Because that's bullshit and it's cowardly and it's just an excuse to not try. And trying can be scary, but trying can also be fun. And that's what I want to say today, and I wish you the best of luck in 2016.